yoke of slavery that Paul is talking about is that of sin. That Christ has set us free from the life we once had in order to give us a new life, to the life he wants to give us in his plan for us. It's actually the best life. It's an abundant life. Well, if you read on in Galatians chapter 5, here's what you're going to read in verse 13. You were called to freedom, brothers. Okay, in Christ, you and I were called to be free. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. And here's what Paul's telling you and I. That you and I have an opportunity every single day that we live. There is going to be one day, believe it or not, you are not going to live. I don't know if you've realized this or not, but last I checked, 100% of the people die. Which means one day I'm going to die too. And I know that sounds like crazy to think about, but it's really good to dwell on the fact that one day I'm not going to exist, but that lets me take the opportunity that I have today. Because I may not get tomorrow. And we have this opportunity to live on mission. What does on mission actually mean? It means operate conviction. That I have a purpose for my life, and I'm going to operate in that purpose, and I'm so strongly convicted about that purpose that I want to live that purpose no matter where it is that I find myself. And that's where we started this series back at really the beginning of January, looking at this idea of being on mission. Well, how in the world do we use our freedom as an opportunity to serve through love and serve one another? How do we do that? Well, Paul tells us that in Ephesians 5, 15, and 16. He says, look carefully then how you walk. So he's telling us, you need to pay attention how you're walking. Now, most of us really, we walk unconsciously and we don't really pay attention to anything that's really going on around us. And we just kind of just do it. It's a natural thing. But Paul is telling us you really need to pay attention to your steps. You need to pay attention to what's going on around you. You need to look carefully. And you need to do it as wise people, not unwise people. If you want to know what an unwise person is, that word can be translated fool. You're a fool. You live foolishly. If you want to look that up, just read the book of Proverbs. It tells you all about the fool and how he lives his life. It'll explain everything out of there, but we want to walk as wise. How do we do that? We make the best use of the time that we've been given because the days are evil. We're going to make like the best use that we can possibly do. And here's what I will tell you about life. And I think this is really important for us to have at the outset before we jump into the story of Joseph is this right here. What I do today ripples through the places we find ourselves, the people who cross our paths, and even the people down the line generationally. Okay, think about this. That what I actually do today creates a ripple effect. Hey, there are times we go to places that have like a creek or a lake or a pond. And you know what every person does when they get to the pond? Throw a rock in it. They want to skip. They want to see what happens. And you know what I would do when I was a kid? I would find the biggest rock that was almost nearly impossible for me to pick up to see if I could just roll it in or at least chuck it in just a little bit to see how big of a splash it would make. But the fact of the matter is when you throw a rock in the river, it affects so much far beyond what our eye can see. The ripples actually extend far beyond, and the sediment that it brings up from the surface, it actually pushes it out to a place that we cannot even see. Now, believe it or not, that if what I do today has power like that, then you and I hold power every single day. You and I have in our hands, in our lives, one of the greatest, most awesome powers in the entire world. Now, there's a lot of things that we can do. And there's a lot of things that we can find ourselves involved in life. And there are times that we'll even fantasize about having maybe a superpower. If I could just fly like Superman. If I had the strength of the Hulk. Honestly, forget all that. Just give me Thor. Like, give me the hammer. Give me the armor. I'll grow my hair out. I don't have a problem. Like, I'm ready. I want to drop the hammer. That's what I want to do. The lightning from the sky to drop it down. But what if I tell you this, that you have a greater superpower than any of those things? That I hold in my life an enormous superpower every day that I wake up. It is in my grasp. And it will alter your life the rest of your life. Honestly, you have used this power to destroy your life. You have used this power to enhance your life. You're wondering if this power can be contained at any point in time because you try your best to contain it in any which way. And actually, you know what this power is? It's this right here. It's the power of yes. Yes. Believe it or not, this is an unbelievable power. Because I hold in my hands the ability to dictate what I'm going to do with my life, when I'm going to do it with my life. If I want to say yes to something, if I want to give affirmation to it, if I want to embark on that journey, if I want to go down that road, or I can negate the request, and I can look at you and say, no, I just crushed your ever-loving dreams. You say, I need something from you. I need you to do this for me. And you can look at them and go, oh man, I've got great power. If I say yes, maybe I can help them. Oh, but if I say no, I can reenact what James tells us, that God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. I'm about to bring some humility in your life by telling you no. Most of us have a really hard time saying no. Actually, we find ourselves in a real massive struggle because we say yes to everything. And the problem is the one thing that you and I need to say yes to, we don't say yes to. And the things that we need to say no to, we don't say no to. Therefore, we're always saying yes to the wrong things, and we're saying no to the right thing. And that's where we often find our lives, not where we really want our lives. And we really struggle with this whole concept of this idea of saying yes. Why? Because deep down in the core of who you and I are, we have one thing that we want more than anything in this world. I want to be accepted, I want to belong, and I want to be loved. And if I tell everybody yes, then everybody will love me, everybody will accept me, and people will like me. The fact of the matter is that's not true. People will often abuse you because you say yes all the time. They'll say, that's a yes person. If I want something, I'm going to go get it. I'm going to go do it. My kids do this, okay, to their advantage. Especially Liam does this sometimes. You know why? Because he is the oldest grandchild of all of them. Yeah, like he's 15, and tomorrow we'll have the newest grandchild, who I'm going to call JD. His name's Justin David, and he'll be born tomorrow. But Liam holds a special place, especially in my dad's life. Liam can just message him and say, Butch, can you do this for me? And I don't even have to see my dad's reaction. It's like, oh, my grandson needs me. And you know what my dad rarely ever says, especially to Liam and Titus, really ever to Liam? He never says no. Just never. It's always, okay, Liam, okay. And we were at home the other day, and we had all this food, and Liam goes, you know what I could really go for? Some Taco Bell. He said, Butch is out. I'm going to message him. Hey, Butch, will you bring me some Taco Bell? We waited and waited and waited and waited, and the next thing you know, Liam goes, yes! I said, what? He goes, Butch is bringing me Taco Bell. I said, I see what you did there. I got you. That's what happens. Okay? We have this uncanny ability not to say no and to say yes. And believe it or not, this is huge power in our hands. Because everything we say yes to means we're saying no to something else. And everything we say no to gives us an opportunity to say yes to something else. The problem is we fill our life up with so many yeses that we don't have the ability to say yes to the one thing we absolutely need to say yes to. And that's where the story of Joseph kicks off. Okay, let's go to Genesis 37, and we're going to work through part of this. I wish I could dissect the whole story of Joseph for you. I had literally about 2 hours worth of material, and I said, no, I got to stop. I've got to cut all this out and do that. So if you want to know the other part of what I'm not going to preach this morning, you can come to community group tonight at 3:30, because I'm going to share the other part that I learned in the story of Joseph, and you can learn that tonight as well. So here it is. Let's just jump right in. These are the generations of Jacob. He's going to introduce us to Joseph. Now, we've met Joseph before, but now Joseph is really going to consume the rest of the book of Genesis. And this is critical for us. We need to know these things. He's going to give us a timeline. Moses is giving us a timeline that Joseph is the ripe old age and the wise old age of 17. At 17, you've got it figured out. At 17, you know what you want to do with life. At 17, your parents are dumb and you're super smart. Right? Come on, you know. And here's what Joseph was doing at 17 years old. He was pasturing the flock with his brothers. Well, kind of. He was like the supervisor of his brothers. And he was a boy with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, and those were his father's wives, well, 2 of the 4. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to their father. It's not good. You have older brothers, 10 of them actually, and you bring a bad report about them. Okay, listen, anytime you tattletale on your brother, it doesn't turn out well. Anytime you tattletale on 10 brothers, it turns out disastrous. Okay? And it tells us right here that Israel is just Jacob. There are times he calls him Israel, and there's times he calls him Jacob. And that's a sermon for another time of why he does this. But Israel, look at this. And parents, this is just a sidebar. This is for you. Okay? Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons. Mistake. Don't do it. Okay? Just don't. Don't play favorites. But that's what Jacob did. He played favorites. He loved Joseph. He was great. He was the son of his old age. And guess what he made him? He made him a robe of many colors, or what we call the coat of many colors. This would have been an elegant robe. It would have been long. The sleeves would have been long. It would have reached all the way down to his ankles. It was one that you couldn't miss it if Joseph walked in the room. Guess what he didn't do for the other 10? He didn't give them a robe. You can just feel the animosity and the tension building up. You know why? Because for some of you, this is you. You grew up in a family and you knew what you were. You were Ba Black Sheep, and you still are. You are the Cousin Eddie that nobody wants to come around. And you don't fit in anywhere in your family. The only reason you go to family functions is because you don't want to disappoint mom and dad. But you know without a shadow of a doubt that they played favorites with everybody else. So-and-so got what they wanted. So-and-so got what they wanted. You know what I got? What everybody else didn't want, and they were all hand-me-downs and had holes in them. That's what it is. This is a real struggle, and the tension is building. But the tension is building for good reason. And here's the tension that's happening. How about we go to verse 4. It says, when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him. There's just no way. They couldn't even talk to the guy. They just, all they wanted to do was slap him every time they walked by him. The little judo chop to the throat. Joseph, shut up. We don't even like you. We're older than you. We're bigger than you. We're stronger than you. And don't worry, we will take care of you. Well, if you read on here in a little bit, but it tells us that Joseph has a couple of dreams. And Joseph sees sheaves bowing down around his sheaf. And then he sees the sun, the moon, and the stars bowing down before him. And you know what he does? He rises up and he speaks this. Listen, at 17, there is no filter. It just doesn't work. Listen, sometimes at 41, filter doesn't work either. All right? At 17, it definitely doesn't work. And a lot of times we bash Joseph for his arrogance, but I just want to caution and warn you. Joseph is simply the product of a pampered environment. He's only doing what he's been taught to do his entire life. He's been the favorite. He's been elevated above everybody else. He has this thing where he walks around with a little pomp and a little I don't know, step. He's just got this skip in his step. It's I just don't like him when he even walks. I don't even like him when he sleeps. And his brothers hated him even more because of these dreams, because they're like, seriously, you're going to rise above us and we're going to bow down to you? Yeah, right, Joseph. I can beat you up. And even if you're a king, I'll still beat you up. And his brothers get really mad. And let me tell you something about unchecked bitterness. When you let unchecked bitterness in your life take root in your heart, you will begin to do things that you never thought you would ever do. You will begin to conspire things in your mind, and the enemy will start feeding things in your life, and you will begin to act on emotion and not the reality of what truly is. And that's what his brothers did. They couldn't stand him because he was daddy's favorite. They couldn't stand him because he got the robe. They couldn't stand him because he brought a bad report. They couldn't stand him because of the dreams. And so we're going to just skip ahead through some of this. In 18 through 20, it tells us this. They saw him from afar. And before they came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him. And they said to one another, "Here comes the dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. Then we will say that a fierce animal has devoured him, and we will see what will become of his dreams." Listen, these brothers were very capable, okay? Simeon and Levi had decimated a whole city. By themselves, went in and just tore everybody up. They were very capable of killing him. Reuben says, wait a second, guys, let's think about this. Reuben's the oldest. He's kind of fallen out of grace with daddy for some not so good immorality. And he says, let's not kill him. Let's just throw him in a pit. Because Reuben thought, if we throw him in a pit, I'll just come back and rescue him and bring him back to daddy, and then I'm going to be in good graces with dad. That's what I need. And then Reuben leaves, and Judah rises up and says, listen, guys, let's not kill him. Let's profit from him. And it's no good if we kill him, so why don't we sell him? And some traders came along, and they sell Joseph off for 20 pieces of silver, and they go down to Egypt. And he goes down to Egypt. Well, here's the fact of the matter in life, and let's just really be honest this morning about life. There are times that you and I reflect on our life, and we realize that the reality that we're living in right now is not what we thought years ago. That what we thought was going to occur in our life down the road is light years apart from where I find myself. Some of us don't like our life very much. Some of us are really in the midst of a lot of struggle right now. And we never thought in a million years that our struggle would be that maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago. I just didn't think I would be right here. I didn't think this would be my life. This is like really hard and difficult. And I'm having a real hard time processing everything that's going on. And I think what happens a lot of times is we let the external disruption shake us and disrupt us internally. And we begin to question everything in life. We will question who we are. We question whose we are. We question our purpose for our life. We question our place in life. We question if we still even have purpose in life. Do I even like where I am? Can I change where I am? Can something be different? Honestly, I don't know if anything around me can change because my life is not at all what I thought, and those dreams are so far past and so far gone that there's no way possible they'll ever become a reality. So a lot of times what we do is we just resolve just to dig in where we are and just to be where we are. And we just lie down and we just let life continue to run over us and beat us up and kick us down. Now what's fascinating about Joseph is we're only up to Genesis 37. There's a lot of things written after Genesis 37 that Joseph didn't have. But what was fascinating is what Joseph didn't have on paper, he had really, truly deep down in his heart. And one of the things that he didn't have on paper that you and I have on paper is this right here. That we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good for those who are called according to his purpose. We like this. We love to quote this verse. We'll just chuck it out there at any point in time when life falls apart and things are going awry and our life is a mess and we just don't like anything. We're like, oh, God works everything for his good. He's going to work it out. It's going to be okay. There's a vast difference between Joseph and a lot of Christians today. Joseph didn't have this on paper, but he had it in his heart. And I'll challenge you this morning, and this whole reading plan, this whole concept, the Bible that we talk about, all these words that are written in here, let me tell you something about this. Don't let what is written on paper remain on paper. Let it be written in your heart. You know what happens is you and I get so focused on what's going wrong in our life that we miss what God wants to do in our life. We get so concerned with what's not right in our life that we're like, God can't do anything with this life. But a lot of times what happens is we have a lot of promises. We have a lot of things about God's character in this book right here that we overlook and we don't see because we leave them right here on the paper. God didn't call us to leave His words on our paper. He says these are alive and active and sharper than any two-edged sword. He said this right here is the inspired, God-breathed word. Let me tell you what the psalmist says in Psalm 119. He says things like this. Psalm 119:11, I have stored up your word in my heart. Verse 15 in Psalm 119, I will meditate on your precepts and I will fix my eyes on your ways. Psalm 119:16, I will delight in your statutes. I will not forget your word. I mean, the heart of the psalmist is this. Your word is so important that I'm not going to let your word just sit there. I want it to consume me. I want it to be everything about me. I want it to be in my heart so I never forget who you are. That I never forget whose I am. And I never forget for what purpose it was that I was called. Psalm 119:34, give me understanding that I may hear or that I may keep your law and observe it with my whole heart. Verse 92, if your law had not been my delight, I would have perished in my affliction. Think about that. If your law had not been in my heart, if your law had not been my delight, my affliction would have overtaken me. I would have perished. Think about Joseph and what he's about to experience. The affliction that he's about to face. The journey that he's about to take. And the road that he's about to go down. If God had not been his delight, he definitely would have perished in his affliction. Verse 97, oh, how I love your law is my meditation all the day. Psalm 119:105, a lot of us know this. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. I think a lot of times we go down the wrong path because we're following the wrong word. We cannot miss this. Jeremiah 31:33, this is the covenant I will make with Israel. I will put my law within them and I will write it on my heart. Wow. That's what the word, that's what he wants us to do. In Matthew 7, Jesus tells us, listen, the storms of life are going to come. Guess what? You can't prevent it. You can't stop it. And there's no way you can control the storms that are about to come. You know why? There were two men there, the wise and the unwise. You know what happened to both of them? The winds blew, the rains fell, the floods came. The storm raged against both of them. But both of their responses were drastically different. And let me challenge you this morning that if we don't like where we are, if we don't love the life in which we live, if we don't like the circumstances and the external things that are going on around us, I will challenge you this, that even in the midst of the unwanted, the unfavorable, and the unexpected, you can still say yes to God. That will be your most important yes, even when life doesn't pan out like you think. Think about Joseph. He's pampered by daddy. He has the coat of many colors. He is Israel's most beloved child. It looks like everything in his life is set up for success because he has these dreams of everybody else around him bowing down to him. What he thought his life was going to be and what he is experiencing are two totally separate realities. They seem light years apart, and Joseph is probably thinking, well, maybe those dreams were just a dream. It wasn't a big deal, because this is not going to happen. This is not going to be good. Why? Because they take him to Egypt. Egypt is 250 to 300 miles from his family, and it's about a 6-week journey. And here's what it tells us in Genesis 39, 1 through 2. Joseph had been brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, a captain of the guard, an Egyptian. Okay, this guy held some high honor. What was in his hands was the ability to put to death. He was over execution. He could put to death anybody he wanted at any point in time. He was the captain of the guard. What did he do? He bought Joseph from the Ishmaelites who brought him down there. And look what it tells us. And I think this is so important. The Lord was with Joseph. And he became a successful man, and he was in the house of his Egyptian master. He was successful. Let me tell you something. When it tells us the Lord is with Joseph, we cannot miss that Joseph was also with the Lord. Joseph did not allow what he was going through. Joseph did not allow what he was experiencing to dictate the course of his life. Joseph was going to go in, and no matter what was going on externally, he was going to say yes to God. I'm going to say yes. I'm all in, God. If I have to be in Potiphar's house the rest of my life, I am all in for you, and I'm going to serve Potiphar as if, Lord, I'm serving you. You know what Joseph never tried to do in Potiphar's house? He never tried to change the circumstances in which he was facing. That's what we do. When life falls apart, we think, okay, how can I fix this? Okay, then I just got to get a better job. I've just got to get more money. How can I take care of this? How can I make sure that this thing happens? How can I repair this? How can I repair that? Can this handle duct tape, or does this need Gorilla Tape? Or do I need like JB Weld? Like, how far are we going in this? Because listen, when it falls apart, don't worry, I can fix it. Not Joseph. Joseph teaches you and I a really valuable lesson about living on mission. And it's this right here. Instead of looking to change our circumstances, we need to invite the Lord into our circumstances. Don't miss this. When Joseph found himself in Potiphar's house, he was away from dad, he was away from the life he had known, and now he's in a new life that he cannot control, he can't do anything about it, and he can't get out of it. He's at the mercy of Potiphar. And he says, you know what? I can't change my circumstances, but you know what I can do? God, I want you to come into my circumstances. I want to invite you into Potiphar's house. I want to invite you in my life and let you change whatever it is that is going on around me. Because God, here's what I believe. That you work out for good according to your purpose for those who love you. God, I believe this, that you work all things together. And God, I love you, and I want to invite you in to my circumstances. Oftentimes, that's not what we do. We don't invite God into our circumstances. Why? Because we can't take our eyes off of our circumstances. We let our circumstances disrupt everything in our life instead of stepping back and pausing and saying, God, there's a lot of crazy and a lot of chaos and a lot of mess going on around, but I want to invite you into this moment right here, right now. I don't know what to expect, and I don't know what's on the other side of this, but God, I know you do, and I'm going to invite you in right now because I believe that you work all things according to your good purpose for those who love you. And look at what happens in Potiphar's house. His master, look what he saw. This is not a God-fearing man. Potiphar is not a God-fearing man at all. But he saw that the Lord was with him, and that who caused it? The Lord caused all that he did to succeed in his hands. So Joseph found favor in his sight and attended him, and he made him overseer of his house and put him in charge of all he had. Potiphar says, man, I've got something special here. This is like the golden goose right here. This is unbelievable. But it's not him that's doing this. It's something that's happening to him and working through him. I can see that the Lord is with him and the Lord is causing him to be successful. And everything that is happening is just unbelievable in my house. And you know what I got to do? I got to put this man in charge. He didn't free him. He didn't release him. He didn't even send him back home. I don't even know if Potiphar knew about Joseph's family. What he did do was take him and put him in charge over everything. And look at what it says in 39, 5, and 6. The Lord, from that time, he made him overseer in his house and over all that he had. This is important. The Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. The blessing of the Lord was on all that he had, in house and field. He left all that he had in Joseph's charge, and because of him, he had no concern about anything but the food he ate. Why did I highlight blessed and blessing right there? This is critical. Because remember what I said, that what I do today ripples through the places in which I find myself, the people who cross my path, and even the generations to come. Because my yes today to God will affect generations down the road. You say, I don't have that kind of power. Wrong. Wrong. Because there was a Sunday school teacher who said yes to God, and under him sat a man by the name of Billy Graham. Don't say that your yes to God doesn't matter today. Your yes to God matters today, and let me tell you whose yes mattered, because Jim preached this last week. I will tell you this, that Abraham's yes to God mattered in the life of Joseph and in the life of the Egyptians. Look, blessed and blessing. Blessed and blessing. Why is this important? Just go back to Genesis 12, 1 through 3. The Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred, your father's house, to the land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And look at this. In you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. In you, Abraham. Abraham, are you willing to go out from your country? Yes, I am. Are you willing to go to the land that I'll show you? Yes, I am. Abraham, are you willing to offer your son as a sacrifice? Yes, I am. And every yes was bringing us closer to a fulfillment that all the families of the earth shall be blessed. And let me tell you something. Potiphar's house was blessed because Abraham said yes. My yes today does matter. We may not see the impact down the road, and we may think, well, I don't know that I'll do anything great. It doesn't matter about that. My yes today is important for God because he has a plan in motion that he wants to use you, and he wants to use me for his plan for us to live on mission. I will tell you this, the great-grandson of Abraham by the name of Joseph would absolutely say that his great-grandfather's yes mattered in his life. It really did matter. It was a blessing because it blessed the Egyptian. That was partial fulfillment. How will all the families of the earth be blessed? Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ would come forth from Abraham all the way down the generational line of people who said yes to God. And Jesus would say yes to God's plan of being a sacrifice for you and I. All the families will be blessed because of somebody's yes. But it's fascinating because last week Jim said, if you don't fully trust God with your life, things will turn out bad. You know what I say? Amen, amen, and amen. I'll echo that 1,000,000 times over. I will preach that all day long, that if you don't fully trust God with your life and the plan that he has for your life, bad things do happen in our life. But I will tell you this, that even when we do love God and even when we give our life over to God, we often face a reality that we don't think we're going to face. Somehow we think like God is this magical wizard up there, that when I give my life to God, he's going to cast that wand over our life and our life is going to be perfect from here on out. That's not true. That's not how God works. We still live in this life, we still live in this fallen world, and we're still walking forward as an imperfect person in an imperfect world around imperfect people. Our life, just because we follow God, doesn't mean it's going to play out exactly like we want it to play out. Because for Joseph, it didn't. You know why? Somebody thought he was hot. He was gorgeous, drop dead sexy. I mean, like, Joseph had the form and appearance of a handsome man. He was a looker. And you know who thought he was good looking? Potiphar's wife. You know what was off limits for Joseph? Potiphar's wife. You know what Joseph was going to refuse to do that Adam and Eve didn't do? He was going to refuse to linger around temptation. He constantly refused. No, I can't. I'm not going to go against my master. I'm not going to sin against God. I'm not going to do this. Listen, it was day after day after day that Potiphar's wife threw herself at Joseph and said, Joseph, come on. Seriously. And he said, absolutely not. I will not do this by sinning against God. Well, she planned a scheme, got everybody out of the place. It was just her and Joseph. She said, Joseph, here I am. And he said, here I go. That's what we need to do. When temptation comes in our life, we don't need to say, oh, temptation, here I am. Let's go. Let's dance and let's tango. No, we need to say, hey, temptation, how are you? Here I go. I'm out of here. Because Joseph ran. She grabbed his garment. She grabbed a hold of it. And then she cried out and accused Joseph of something he never did. Well, you know what? It's he said, she said at this point, and look at what happens. In 39, 19 through 20, as soon as his master heard the words that his wife spoke to him, this is the way your servant treated me. His anger was kindled. And Joseph's master took him and put him into prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he was there in prison. Now, that's not fair. That's what we say. God, that's not fair. Why is it that I am giving you everything that I have? Why is it that I'm following you with my whole heart? Why is it that I'm living the way that I'm supposed to live, and I am finding myself in prison right now? That's often what we do when our life falls apart and it crumbles, and we're like, God, I've been going to church. God, I've been serving. I've been doing the things you wanted me to do. God, why are you not doing anything about my life right now? I think Joseph teaches us another valuable lesson in this. It's this right here. Don't let what's going on around you determine your perspective and attitude. Allow the God who is in you. Allow God who is in you to do this. That's what happens when our foundation gets shaken. We allow everything else to determine our perspective and attitude. When God is saying, I need you to remember who you are, whose you are, and for what purpose I called you. I need you to step forth and stay on that rock even when the storms blow. Because listen, I've got a plan, and the plan is great, and the plan is going to be unbelievable. But I need for you to trust me to walk through this. God will permit difficult situations in our life so that He can develop in us the character and the preparation that He needs for what's to come ahead. I think a lot of times we forget that God is doing something in us before He does something through us. And a lot of times we stop what He's doing in us because all we want is for God to work through us and to work everything out the way that we want it to work out. And God said, no, that's not how I work. This is not how it goes. And for Joseph, that's it right here. Peter speaks to this in the book 1 Peter. Here's what he says. Be subject for who? The Lord's sake. To where? Every human institution, whether it be the emperor as supreme or to the governors as sent by him to punish those who do evil and praise those who do good. Be subject for the Lord's sake. You know what Joseph said? I'm going to be subject for the Lord's sake in Potiphar's house. Potiphar wasn't a great man. I'm sure he probably did horrible things. But Joseph said, you know what? For the Lord's sake, I'm going to be subject to it. For this is the will of God. If you need to know the will of God for your life, right here it is. This is the will of God, that by doing good, you should put to silence the ignorance of foolish people. Then he goes on to speak what Paul speaks, kind of, in a way. He says this, live as people who are free. Not using your freedom as a cover-up for evil, but living as servants of God. How do you want to use this freedom? To be a servant of the Lord. How do you do this? You honor everyone. Not the ones you like. Not the ones who aren't your enemies. You honor every single person. You fear God. You honor the emperor. Servants, be subject to your masters with all respect. To which masters? The good ones? No. Not to only the good ones and the gentle, but also to the ones that act injustice. That have injustice and act unjustly towards you. Even the ones that abuse you. That's what you're going to do. And then he tells us this. This is a gracious thing. When mindful of God. Look at this. Don't allow what's going on around you, but what is happening in you. The God who is in you. Be mindful of God. One endures while suffering unjustly. For what credit is it if you sin and are beaten for it and you endure? Okay? If you break the law and you go to jail, that's the way it works. But if when you do good and suffer for it you endure, this is a gracious thing in the sight of God. This is the J.B. Phillips. This is what he says about this last little portion here. He said, after all, it is no credit to you if you are patient in bearing a punishment which you have deserved. But if you do your duty and are punished for it and can still accept it patiently, you are doing something worthwhile in God's sight. Would my life be considered worthwhile in God's sight because I'm letting the God within me work through me so that he can accomplish his purpose of being on mission? This is what's fascinating. Joseph finds himself in prison. Let's just move on really quickly. The Lord was with Joseph. Isn't that awesome? And showed steadfast love and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. The keeper of the prison paid no attention to anything that was in Joseph's charge because the Lord was with him. And whatever he did, the Lord made it succeed. It's unbelievable. This is what Joseph did. You know what we often do when we don't like the circumstances? We pout, we complain, we just tell the whole world. We post it on Facebook. We get on there and we're like, you know what? My life's falling apart. This is ridiculous. I hate so-and-so. I don't like that one company. That restaurant, they screwed up my food. They did all this. And we just keep going and we're like, I wonder if anybody's commented on it. I wonder if any, oh my God! 60 likes! Never gotten that many. You know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to post something even more awful than that. And I'm just going to go off. And we start bashing people and we start throwing things out there. And we don't like our circumstances. And we're saying, woe is me. Look at me. I'm a victim. Yeah, oh, honey, you're right. You need it. Oh, yeah, you go off, girl. It's like we allow everything in our life to go the direction in which we view our life. Not Joseph. I love this about Joseph because Joseph found himself sold in slavery and made the best of it. Joseph now finds himself falsely accused and in prison, and what does he do? He's going to make the best of it. And he teaches us this right here. Live for God right where you are. Right where you find yourself. But I don't like the circumstances, God. Okay, I get it. You don't like it. I get it. You're frustrated. But I need you to live for me right where you are. I've got a plan for you. Do you trust my plan to stay right where you are and live for me? Will you invite me into what's going on? And will you live for me right here? Oh, Joseph would, because there's two guys that are going to be thrown into prison with him. The cupbearer and the baker. Two of the most powerful men in the Egyptian area. Everything. You know why? Because they were the ones that would try the drink and the food to make sure it wasn't poisoned before it went to Pharaoh. What a great job. Hey, do you care to try this to make sure that nobody's trying to kill me? I'm glad. You know, they were hugely powerful. And something happened in Pharaoh that he threw those two guys in prison. And Joseph is going to live for God right where he is. Look at this. And one night, they both dreamed, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison, each his own dream with its own interpretation. When Joseph came to them in the morning, look at this, just note this, he saw. He saw. He looked with his eyes and he saw that they were troubled. This is so fascinating because a lot of times we let our circumstances dictate everything about us. We let our circumstances do whatever it needs to be done. We let everything go around us and we focus on only what's happening to us and not what's happening to others. And Joseph gives us a valuable lesson here too as well. Don't get so caught up in self that you overlook what others are going through. Think, so often we get caught up in our own world. The world revolves around me. I'm the one going through it. You need to pity me. You need to throw me a pity party. Make sure that I have it. Come on, keep your eyes on me. That's what Facebook does. That's what social media does. It keeps our eyes and everybody else's on us. But Joseph said, I'm not going to get so caught up in the circumstances that I don't like that I'm not going to look for opportunity to serve God and other people. So, he asked Pharaoh's officers who were with him in custody in his master's house. He asked them, why are your faces downcast? You know what we'd say? Hey, you okay? Okay. And we just walk off. We know they're not okay. But you know what we don't want? Whatever mess they're going through. You know why? Because I got enough problems of my own. I don't need your problems too. I'm going to ask you if you're okay because that's the spiritual thing to do. And then you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to do a darn thing about it either. You know, why are you crying? Something happened? All right, see ya. I'm out of here. Somebody else could be your crying shoulder because it ain't going to be me. And that's what we do, but not Joseph. Joseph said, hey, guys, what's going on? Like, why are you so sad? Like, why are you depressed? And they tell him his dreams, and the dreams happen. And guess who else is going to dream? Look at this. After 2 more years, we're up to 13 years for Joseph. After 2 whole years, Pharaoh dreamed. Pharaoh dreamed. And it would be the cupbearer who would say, oh, there's a guy named Joseph in prison. He can interpret dreams. It's going to be great. He can come do this for you. And so guess what? Joseph does come. He cleans himself up. He changes his clothes. He gets ready to go. He goes and meets Pharaoh. And here's what he tells Pharaoh. He says the doubling of Pharaoh's dream means that the thing is fixed by God. It's a guarantee, stamp it approved, it's going to happen. And God will shortly bring it about. Now, therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint overseers over the land and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 plentiful years. Joseph said, listen, Pharaoh, here's your dreams. Here's what's going to happen. 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. The famine is going to be horrendous. It's going to be the worst thing the world has ever experienced. What you need to do, Pharaoh, is you need to get somebody who is wise and discerning, and you need to put them in charge of everything else so that we collect enough grain to be able to sustain not only Egypt, but we can sustain the world. Pharaoh, this plan is going to make you the most powerful man in all the world. And here is what's fascinating a lot of times about when God does something in our life, or God places somebody before our life. Joseph was willing to see the need that was in front of him with the cupbearer and the baker, and now he's seeing the need of Pharaoh in front of him. But I don't think living a life on mission is only just about seeing the need. That's usually how far we go. You know why? When we see a need, we call up to somebody else, hey, you get paid to go visit them in the hospital. Why don't you go visit them? Oh, hey, you're the youth minister at Encounter, aren't you? Yeah, so-and-so asked me about this. Can you do something about this? Hey, why don't we get the pastor on the phone? He can help us get this done. I am a firm believer that if God puts a need before you, he wants you to do something about it. And I think that's what living on mission is. Joseph was willing to do something about it. Joseph wasn't willing to say, hey, Pharaoh, you're in some serious trouble. It's not going to turn out good for you. See, I'm going back to prison. That's not what he did. Joseph saw the need, and he teaches us that we have to be willing to get involved and do something about it. That's what Life on Mission does. You say, what if I can't do anything about it? That's when you go and reach out to those who you think can do something about it. I lived this out yesterday. I could meet an initial need, but I couldn't do it beyond that. And I needed help, so I called a pastor friend of mine. And I said, hey, I can't minister to this person because they're an hour away, but you're on the ground there. Can you help? Absolutely, we got this. We'll take it from here. That's what it's about. Oftentimes, we are more apt to tell other people what to do when God's telling us what he wants us to do because he's the one who put it in front of us. That's what it is. We have to be willing to get involved and do something about it. And look at what happens. This proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. And Pharaoh, the pagan Pharaoh, the one who worshiped false gods, the one who led Egypt to believe that every Egyptian was a god and everybody else in the world was lesser than them. This man right here said to his servants, can we find a man like this in whom is the Spirit of God? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, God has shown you all this, and there is none so discerning and wise as you are. I will tell you this, when we allow the presence of the Spirit to fill us, and we allow the presence of the Spirit to actively work through us, other people take notice. They see something different. They see something that they now desire and want, but they can't quite put their finger on it. And Joseph he lives this out over and over and over. And look at this. I just ask you this question this morning. Do I live in such a way that others see Jesus and the difference he makes in my life? Is that how I'm living my life? That others can look at my life and go, oh my gosh, what is wrong? What is going on? Like, what is happening to you? You are a totally different person. That's what's happening in the life in the Egyptian house with Pharaoh. Everybody from Potiphar to the warden to Pharaoh is noticing God. And when we live a life for God, we become a testament to the one true God, His will, His purpose, and His mission. And 13 years later, Joseph was 17 when he left home. He's now 30. And it tells us this. He was 30 years old when he entered the service. When he entered to serve the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt. Now, I would love to tell you the rest of the story. You read the rest of the story, but I would really love to just bring it to light, but I can't. But I will tell you, and I will echo this again, that what I do today ripples through the places in which I find myself, the people who cross my path, and even the generations to come. And I think Joseph teaches us a valuable lesson that no matter where we find ourselves, we live for God right where we are. And I think this is the question that we ask ourselves as we walk forward and we get ready for communion. And it's this right here. Will I say yes to God? We ask a lot of wrong questions in life. We ask questions that have no sense in being asked whatsoever. But I will tell you this, that every morning that your eyes open and you take that breath knowing that you're waking up out of bed and you're wiping the sleep from your eye and you're going to put your feet down on the ground, I ask you this question. Will I say yes to God? Because my yes will make a difference. And I will tell you somebody's yes who made a difference. It was Jesus Christ. God said we need a sacrifice. God so loved the world that He sent His only Son. He's going to give His only Son. And this is it. And Jesus, are you willing to say yes, to leave heaven and go to earth and be the sacrifice for all mankind? You know what He said? Yeah, I will. I'll do it. And He's going to do it willingly. And He's going to give His life willingly. And that's why we do communion. That's why we do this right here. In the top you'll find the bread, and you can peel it back and grab hold of it. And we do this so that we can remember that Jesus said yes to the cross in order to say yes to us. And now our life can be different because of who He is. He told His disciples that He was going to die, that He was going to be no more, that He would not eat of this meal until He was on the other side. They didn't quite understand it and they didn't quite get it. But over and over and over, He said, I came to give my life as a ransom for many. You know why? Because we find ourselves in the bondage of sin. We are a broken people, messed up, and guess what we can't do? We can't fix ourselves. Man, I want to fix myself sometimes, but I can't. There's just no way possible I can fix myself. Jesus said, but I can. And He went to the cross. And when He sat with His disciples, He took the bread and He broke it and He blessed it. And He said, this is my body broken for you. So often as you do it in remembrance of me, in remembrance of His yes. And then it would be His blood. One of my most favorite hymns in all of script, in all of the hymn book is, what can wash away my sin? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. And He took the cup, just the same as He took the bread, and He blessed it. And he said, this is the blood of the new covenant, shed for you and shed for me. So often as you do it in remembrance of me. And it was at that time that they sang, as they went to the Garden of Gethsemane. And that's what we're going to do now, because I think right now is an important opportunity for us just to spend a few moments in worship.